Is investing in tax liens a good idea? Well, why don't we figure it out real quick? So I'm going to tell you about a guy that lives in Phoenix, Arizona. His name is Dave. Now he's 35 years old, and he called me on the phone. He said, I just put $2,000 in the bank. I said, why'd you do that? He said, well, Ted, I'm 35 and I want to retire when I'm 55. And I said, well, great. What's the interest rate? He said, Ted, I'm going to get 3.75. So I said, all right, what's that money going to be worth next year or in 20 years? Well, it turns out his $2,000 at the end of 20 years is going to be roughly $4,200. How good a retirement is that going to be? He said, Ted, what should I do? I said, well, Arizona pays 16% on a tax certificate. If you buy the certificate and you don't get paid, you get the property without a mortgage. Wait a minute, say that again, Ted. In this episode, I'm going to cover and answer the question, is investing in tax liens a good idea? I'm also going to give you some inside tips and show you how to make some money with tax lien certificates. And then I'll end, if you'll hang in to the end, I'll show you a few things to avoid so you don't make a big mistake at the auction.
Welcome back to the Wealth Without Risk destination, where we help you discover and take advantage of one of the best real estate income opportunities most people don't even know exists.
Well, it definitely is a good idea. It's a positive answer because I'm really positive about tax lien certificates. I want you to understand, when you buy a tax lien certificate, you don't buy it from me. You're going to invest your money with the local government. You're going to get a check back from the government. So you're not buying it from a broker, a company, or a person like Ted Thomas. I'm an educator just to teach you how to do this. But the point is, you're going to invest with the government. You're going to get a check back from the government. That's going to make it a predictable, certain, and secure investment. Predictable, certain, and secure. So if you're more than 35 years old, you want to be thinking about those kind of investments. If you got a lot of gray hair and no hair like I do, well, then you definitely want to be thinking about tax lien certificates. So let me take you on a little journey of a friend that I helped out, and he didn't know anything about it. So I'm going to tell you about a guy that lives in Phoenix, Arizona. His name is Dave. Now he's 35 years old, and he called me on the phone. He said, hi, Ted, how are you? And I said, I'm good. He said, I just put $2,000 in the bank. I said, wait a minute, $2,000 in the bank, why'd you do that? He said, well, Ted, I'm 35 and I want to retire when I'm 55. I said, okay, I got it. So you want to retire in 20 years? He said, yeah. And I said, how much did you put in the bank? And he said, $2,000. So you might want to remember that number, $2,000. All right, so he's going to invest $2,000 at the bank. And I said, well, great. What's the interest rate? Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but the bank rates are like 1% and less. So I anticipated he was going to say 1%. He said, Ted, I'm going to get 3.75. And I said, hold on. How could you get 3.75? All the banks are paying 1. He said, Ted, I've got a special deal. I said, okay, you got a special deal. Good for you. So I said, all right, what's that money going to be worth next year or in 20 years? He said, well, Ted, I'm just going to leave it in the bank. And every time it's time for renewal, I'm just going to renew it and I'm going to leave it there for 20 years. I said, okay, great. What's it going to be worth in 20 years? He said, well, I don't know. And you know, most people don't know how much money they're going to get in retirement. So I said, well, why don't we figure it out real quick? He said, how do I do that? I said, well, take out your phone. Now you got a phone in your back pocket. So take out the phone. You can do it with me, okay? So put $2,000 on it. It's got a calculator on the phone. So find the calculator part, put $2,000 and 3.75. Now you figure it out 1 year. $2,000, that's what he invested, 3.75. Well, I can tell you, you can get 1 year, then just do it 19 more times, and you'll know what he's going to get for the year. Well, it turns out his $2,000 at the end of 20 years is going to be roughly $4,200. How good a retirement is that going to be? That might be 2 tanks of gasoline for all we know. So you're not going to do very well putting that money in the bank. He said, Ted, what should I do? And I said, look, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not a business advisor. I'm just an educator. He said, well, what would you do? I said, well, Arizona pays 16% on a tax certificate. He said, could I earn 16? I said, well, of course you could. You could buy right there in Phoenix where you live. And he said, well, how much money would my $2,000 be worth? I said, I don't know, but we can find out. So I took my phone and I put in $2,000. That's how much he's going to invest. I put 16%. I figured 1 year. All right. Now I got to do it 19 more times. Wow, folks. I did that. It's going to be worth close to $40,000. All right, here's the point. Do you want to have $4,000 at the regular bank rates, or do you want to buy a tax lien certificate and earn 16%? If you buy the certificate and you don't get paid, you get the property without a mortgage. Wait a minute, say that again, Ted. If you buy a tax lien certificate and you don't get paid, then you get the property. So you're either going to get 16% or you're going to get the property without a mortgage. That's an easy choice for me to make. All right, so you're kind of getting the idea. So Dave said, well, wait a minute, is that the best I can do? I said, oh no, you could go to Iowa. In Iowa, they pay 24%. So let's think about this. $2,000, 24%, figure 1 year, do it again 19 more times. Folks, you're not going to believe this. At the end of 20 years, his $2,000 is now going to be worth almost $150,000. Now, this is just fourth grade math using your phone. You can probably do better than this if you really think about it. So tax lien certificates, you can pretty much figure out that it's a pretty good idea. Now, what is your family going to think if you put a $2,000 investment, then every time the certificate pays off, you reinvest it, do it again and again for 19 years in his case, in his hometown, or if you want to go to Iowa and do it online, he's going to be making pretty big money compared to what he'd do at the bank.
If you're enjoying this video and want to join our journey to financial freedom, don't forget to like, leave a comment with your thoughts or questions, and subscribe to stay updated on all things wealth building. Also, unlock your exclusive free gift now by clicking the link below. Instant access awaits. Now back to our video.
All right, so tax lien certificates have been around for 200 years. I didn't invent them. The government invented them because people don't pay their property tax. Now, I can't control people. You can't either, but you need to take advantage of a business that's good for you.
Hey, Ted, are there enough tax lien certificates available?
There's going to be thousands. There will always be an abundance. There'll always be leftovers. Okay, so I don't care what town you want to pick. You want to pick Miami? I've seen Miami have 65,000 tax certificates. If they don't sell them all, they'll put them on what's called a surplus list. They'll put them on a list where you can buy them over the counter. In other words, you could walk into the county records and say, look, do you have surplus left over from the tax auction? They'd say yes, and they would give you all the numbers, and you could just buy them over the counter. There's not even any bidding. But there's always too many tax lien certificates. Anybody can buy them. It's up to you. Now, you can't buy them from me. You have to buy them directly from the county, and yes, you'll have to pay cash.
Are tax lien certificates affordable?
Okay, so sometimes the question will come up, can you afford it? Is it good for anybody? So let me break this thing down. Tax lien certificates are sometimes as small as $50. Now hold on. If you put in $50 in something and it makes 16%, you're going to make pennies. All right, so you're not going to buy one of these. You're going to buy numbers of these. So you can buy tax lien certificate. The average home, like in a place like Florida, will have $1,000 a year in taxes. Now, a place like Phoenix, it would be more than that because the real estate prices are higher. So the taxes are probably going to be $2,000 or $3,000 on one house. But you can buy as many as you want. You're not restricted. You can buy them on shopping centers. You can buy them on commercial properties. I've seen them on major buildings in downtown areas where the tax certificate could be $200,000 or $300,000. But to get started, you can get started with $50. But keep in mind, if you're earning 16% on $50, you're not going to get a hell of a lot of money.
What are the biggest mistakes that we should avoid?
Now, there's some big mistakes that people make, and I'd like you to avoid those. Number one, people buy property without looking at it. Do not buy a property that you haven't looked at because you actually don't know if it's there. Now, if you're going to tell me about a Google picture you saw, I don't want to hear it because those Google pictures are 10 and 12 years old. And now if you're using the geographical information satellite, which we teach you about, well, that's going to be a little better. But the point is, you don't want to buy something that isn't there. You don't want to buy something that's damaged. You don't want to buy something that's been flooded or burned out or whatever. All right, so don't buy property you haven't looked at. That's number one. Now, number two is just as important. And people do this because they get excited. Now, newcomers get really excited because they see all this potential. They see all that margin from the buying to what they could sell it for. So just slow yourself down. Don't buy unless you know what your exit strategy is. Now, why do I say that? Don't buy it just because you think it's a good deal. Buy it because you already know what you can sell it for. If you don't know what you can sell it for, don't buy it. There's all kinds of people at these auctions. Some people are there just to win the auction. We're not teaching people that. We're teaching you buy these at a low price so you can make money.